Welcome to Smash Avo Property. Today I'm speaking with Damon Keizer. He's a 22-year-old who just signed his first property deal. He had a goal to buy his first property and was able to find a way outside of the standard 80-20 LVR mortgage. He walks us through how he's able to leverage his family members to get his foot in the door and start his property portfolio.
Off on my Oma, who was happy to finance my side of things, and it was cool because she did say at one lunch, she said, if you need a bit of help, I'm happy to help out. And I was thinking, she might want to give me $5,000 or $10,000 for a deposit, and then it just comes out that she wants to finance my side of things. And the deal was that it's going to be the exact same as what my auntie gets with the bank. So
Damon is a fellow YouTuber that talks all things investing and personal finance. He also has numerous videos on how he runs his day, from miracle mornings to cold showers. He has some great insights on mindset. I learnt a ton from him, and I think you will too. As always, seek your own professional financial, legal, and property investing advice for your current situation. Everything we talk about is just our opinion and general in nature, and should never be considered as personal advice. So without any further ado, let's get house hunting with Damon. Damon Keizer, welcome to Smash Avo Property.
Thanks, mate. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one because for all the listeners out there, Damon and I reached out together on YouTube. He runs a YouTube channel, which is much better than mine, I must say. But he reached out there, and I started watching a few of his videos. And he doesn't just do property, but he teaches a lot of investing and other areas of investing. And he's a young bloke himself, so I'm keen to dive into your mind and how you got started and everything. But it's good to get you on, mate. Why don't you start us off with the YouTube channel? What's it called, and what's your goal there?
YouTube channel is just my name, Damon Keizer, and I think the great thing about what you're doing and what I'm doing is that we're very closely aligned. So my channel is also all about inspiring people to take that leap into investing. And now I look back on my first video, and it was just me. I just had this idea one day, I'm reading so many books about investing. I'm learning so much. I have to just start talking about it, because otherwise I'm just going to bore my brothers and friends talking about investing, and I can't do that for hours on end. So it really was just a bit of a selfish impetus at the start to just, release some energy and talk about things that I was passionate about. And then it sort of grew from there to really inspiring people to take the leap into investing. And my first video was about that investing isn't something that should be some real scary and intimidating thing. It's something that everyone needs to do in order to keep up with inflation. As you were talking about in your most recent video, that if you just keep your money in a savings account, it's not going to serve you. You need to get it out there working for you as opposed to you just working for money all the time. So that's key. And the big part for me with investing, particularly in property, is I don't just want to be a successful investor. I want to be able to teach it, but in order to be able to teach it to a high level and a high standard, I obviously need to know what the hell I'm doing. So I need to practice what I preach, and then the YouTube is something to, I guess, share my experiences and the things that I'm learning in real time and inspire others to try and do the same. And it's great to in the last few months, it's great that a few people have started to message me on other platforms, emailing me or DMing me on Instagram saying, thanks for your videos. I'm really enjoying your content. And that it's taken pretty much a year for that to happen, which does show that, it does take a while to actually establish an audience, but finally people are actually talking to me and also engaging in the comments as well. And I've got so much out of it as well, just meeting new people like yourself. I wouldn't be on this podcast without starting that YouTube channel. I also probably wouldn't have even gotten my first deal across the line if I didn't start my YouTube channel, because another person who I've connected with on YouTube is Sean Craig, and he basically gave me, he shared me your podcast as well. So that's how I discovered you as well. And he helped me talk to the real estate agent on my first deal. I didn't really know what to say to find out price we need to go in at, and he told me. So I think YouTube has just been huge for not only my personal development but also my investing.
Yeah, I think you and I are kind of on the same path. Like the whole YouTube thing for me was I had so much excitement and things that I wanted to tell people. Like there was so much that I was learning. And I just wanted to really simplify it and sort of pass on the learnings and like pick all those really cherry topics and cherry areas that are beneficial to everyone, and sort of break them down easier and talk about them in an easier format than, you know, them having to go and read 100 books to get the cream of the crop. So I think we're definitely on the same road with the YouTube thing. Like really, it is selfish, because for every topic that I choose to talk about, I have to investigate into and learn about more and make sure that, you know, everything I'm saying is actually true and accurate. And I get so much more out of that as well. So I think, yeah, it's actually really interesting that you're saying the same things. And yeah, I think inflation is one of those like hidden money things, right? Like if you don't understand it, it's so easy to get caught up in. Like if you've just got money sitting in a bank account and you think it's growing there in value over time, but you're still paying interest on the money. You're still paying tax on the interest that's coming through. And then little do you know that inflation's slowly increasing in the background, and it's not really, you know, it's actually decreasing in the value, not in price, but in the value of the money. So yeah,
Exactly.
that was a crazy one that came up for me.
When I first learned that, I think it was like when I first read my first book on that money, it was Scott Pape's Barefoot Investor, and I couldn't sleep for weeks because I was just so excited. I was like, people don't even bother to read one book about possibly one of the most important things in your life that could really change your life. And just reading that book really did change my life, and it opened up a whole new thing for me to immerse myself into. And then I read, you know, Kiyosaki, and then I read that, you know, savers were losers, and you can't just put your money in a bank account. And it just blew me away that people don't know this or bother to know this. And that's where I started thinking, okay, I got to try and teach this as much as I can. So, because otherwise people just don't know, and that you don't know what you don't know. You know, you think, oh, I'm saving money, this is great. And then, yeah, little do you know, unless you stick it into an asset, you're not going to get ahead financially.
And I think we're not even really taught about it. And you know, I think one of my previous guests have said this before, but it's actually, and it's a little bit controversial, but I think, you know, some people in big places actually like us in that state of mind where we don't really understand finance, and we don't really, you know, understand that getting a credit card is still money we owe. It's not free money. Like there's so many intricacies that go into the economy that help stimulate the economy. And sometimes people being blind to it actually, you know, helps stimulate everything, how it's going currently. But yeah, I'm completely in the same mindset. Like if you had to read one book to get you excited about finance, like that would be the book to read, because you know, I don't agree with every single thing that he says in there, but you know, for the most part, all of the concepts, including like just thinking about super and all that sort of stuff, like it really just switches you on.
Looking back on that book, I mean, I made a video that was basically saying how wrong Scott Pape is about various things, but obviously you need to consider who the book is for. It's for people who are, you know, middle-aged and just think, oh God, I'm not going to be able to retire or whatever. And it's just, you know, organizing all those personal finances. But really there's a lot of things that aren't talked about, but it is a great book if you're struggling financially and you really don't know anything. So it was a good first book for me, but even a few months later, looking back on it, I was like, okay, now I disagree with half of the things he said. But yeah, and you, because I mean, that book's really about playing defense, I think. Whereas, you know, you read other books about property investing or whatever, it's way more offense. And I think that's where I'm heading at the moment. I'm starting to transition into that offensive phase, which is good.
I totally agree. I think when I first read it too, like there's so many concepts in there that I still implement today. Like I completely agree with them. Like just the different savings accounts and the super, as I was saying before, and just, you know, really monitoring and watching your money sort of things. And I think everyone goes through different stages of financial well-being as well. Like I know I was talking about badly before about credit cards, but you know, if you're smart with how you use a credit card, and you know, if you've got a mortgage with an offset account, which you put all your money into the offset account, and then you've got like a 55-day credit card that just automatically tops up itself from the offset account, so you're not, you know, required to top it up manually, but it does it all itself. You can actually use a credit card to benefit your financial position. So it really just comes down to the individual and how, you know, good they are at managing their money and you know, paying off things completely, or do they just think it's free money and, you know, max it out completely and just forget about it and pay the interest that's required, the minimum amount of interest that's required.
It's tough. There's so many different nuances in finance, which is cool, and there's so many different opinions. There's never one size fits all, which I think is something that's so cool about it, is that, you know, when I read The Barefoot Investor, I just thought, oh, credit cards, they're terrible. And I remember seeing people use them. Like, how could they use credit cards? This is, I don't know what they're doing. These poor people. Oh my goodness, I should just cut them up. And then obviously a few months later, okay, no, there are some benefits there. They're not all bad. And I think if you think in that way with a really closed mind, it can be really harmful to just think that this is wrong. All credit cards are bad. You know, getting into debt is bad. You know, those oversimplifications can be really dangerous. So yeah, understanding all those intricacies can go a long way. And even just then, you know, you sharing that thing about credit cards, that's something I never even knew or considered. So it's learning about finance should be a real ongoing process, and talking about it is, you know, the first step, because, you know, I wouldn't have known, you know, that credit card structure with an offset account was a thing unless you said it. And by having an open mind and being willing to listen is key to actually understand that. And now that's another little detail of finance that I know, and I'm gonna
exactly. So like if you just put your, you know, if you've got an investment property, you put your expenses on the credit card, like gas, water, or not gas and water because it's investment property, but you know, council rates and all those sort of things, then you're not paying you still have that money in the offset account for 55 days until you actually need to pay it. But you're not paying any interest on the credit card because it's a 55-day credit card. So yeah, it's, you know, we're talking cents and dollars here, but you know, everything does count at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this is a property podcast, so we probably should jump onto property, but you're a fairly young bloke, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you've just been accepted on an offer that you've put on a property.
Yeah, so 6th of December, offer was accepted, which is pretty exciting. I was looking for about 2 months with my auntie, so I immediately knew that, you know, I had just over 30,000 saved. I immediately knew that just having a $30,000 deposit and working casually at you know, over the last year, I've worked at Nando's. I've earned about $500 a week doing private tutoring with teaching students English and doing Uber Eats. I knew that wasn't going to enable me to get into the property market, at least in Australia or New Zealand, where I was also considering, and I will consider in the future. But I knew that wasn't enough. So I knew I needed to leverage other people. I think that's really key for people to know, that when they are first starting, you don't have to go it alone, and you should be looking for people to partner with, because at 22, when you're, you know, just working casually, it's not going to happen really. And so I actually leveraged 2 of my family members, and we can talk about the finer details of that in a bit. But yeah, so I partnered with my auntie. She had some equity. I was slowly teaching her about investing. You know, pretty much weekly, I'd have dinner there and we'd chat about investing, and then it got to the point where it's like, okay, let's do this. Let's actively start looking. And then over about a 2-month period, we looked at properties every weekend as much as we could. And then when we saw this one, we knew enough about the market in the area to know that it was, to know immediately that it was significantly undervalued. And it was on for 259, which I think is a good 50K below market value. Wow. We had a look, and we were immediately looking for the problem, you know, the fallen roof, the thing that was going to justify that low price. Yeah. And it didn't come up, and then the agent just said it's a bank repossession. And then I remember vividly, we turned into the hallway, and I pretty much shook my auntie's shoulders and said, we need to buy this because it's a bank repo. Like we, you know, there's no better option really. This is like the ideal first property. And it was scary because there were some intimidating terms of the contract because of the bank repo. You know, we couldn't have a building and pest inspection. So we thought it'd be a worthwhile investment to get that done anyway, even if something came up and we couldn't buy it, because we thought the odds were stacked in our favor anyway. Yeah. And then the building and pest came back really positive, and the guy said, yeah, it's a really well-built house. Obviously there was some minor issues because it was a bit neglected. But they were all problems we could fix fairly cost effectively. So we weren't too worried. And the guy said, yeah, this is a really well-built house. I can't believe it's on for 259. You should definitely buy it. And then, yeah, we did. And, yeah. pretty
Yeah,
happy.
it's like being at the right place at the right time, and it's the right market conditions right now, and bank repossession is just everything kind of aligned. It sounds like, and yeah,
Yeah.
I was watching your video on it, and I was really wrapped when you said you got a building and pest inspection done, and it sounds like you did a fair bit of due diligence or about being in contact with Sean Craig and getting a local agent to sort of help you out and speak to the agent. Like, it sounds like you really did your due diligence there. So I think you've done very well. And yeah, I am actually really interested in hearing about how you did it with your auntie and your other family member. Was that quite a difficult conversation, or was it something that they were quite excited about because you were talking about investing as well?
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, it's interesting. So initially we tried to do it ourselves, me and my auntie, and the mortgage broker was sitting down and he said, okay, Damon's Uber Eats job and, tutoring, it's not going to cut it. He can't really be on the title and service the loan. So we're either going to have to just, put up my deposit and then me not be on the title, and then organize that later and pay stamp duty again, just so I could be on the title. And it just got a little bit hairy. And I was a little bit cut by that because, I mean, I was saving up a lot of money. I was learning so much, and I just thought it would be a little bit easier. And when the mortgage broker basically told me you need to get a full-time job or at least a part-time job with fixed hours, I was like, oh, I don't really want to do that because I'm applying for jobs next year, a full-time job, and
Yeah.
should have something, a full-time teaching position next year. But yeah, at the time I didn't really want to do that. I didn't want to just get a new part-time job for a few months just so I could buy this property. It didn't really feel right. And
Yeah.
I was a little bit cut by that. And then we were still looking because we thought, there's no harm in still looking. But I thought we're going to have to structure things a little bit differently. And my auntie didn't have enough equity to cover everything. So I did need to bring something to the table. But
Yeah.
I was talking to my mum and dad about it, and my grandma basically said, hey, I'm willing to finance your side of things. And
Wow.
and that's obviously amazing. But I do, as that happened, I was thinking, oh, do I really want to do this? Because obviously with the YouTube and everything, a big part of my why is teaching people how to do it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be that sort of rags to riches sort of story of someone who did it all himself. And it was a bit of an internal struggle for me. It's like, do I want to take this because I'm going to have to say, this is how I got started, and it's going to take away some credibility perhaps, or should I just do it? And the obvious answer was just to do it, because it was going to mean that my auntie was refinancing her own home that had a lot of that had enough equity, and then my Oma, I'm Dutch, my Oma was financing my side of things. It meant that we could offer cash as well, so we were in a good position, and it made sense to do that. And I just had to swallow my pride a little bit and take it. But there was, I do just want to say though, because I don't want people listening to this and in the future to discover that it's 105k she's giving me, and I've got the 30k to give her as a deposit. I don't want people to think, oh, you can only do it because you were given that money. I don't want that to be the narrative. So I just want people to understand that it wasn't just as simple as my Omar coming up to me like, oh, do you want some money to buy a property? Although, yeah, that's amazing. And obviously not everyone's going to have that luxury. I obviously needed to have the deposit in the first place. I have a good relationship with my Oma. I developed trust there. She knew that I was very interested in property, and it wasn't just a phase. It wasn't just I'm buying a house. It's an investment in my financial future. And she knew I was really serious about this stuff, doing courses, the YouTube channel, learning so much and teaching her. I think she was a little bit impressed about what I was doing. And my parents played a big role in that, really establishing my identity as the property guy, the investor, the young investor who cares about his money a lot. So my parents definitely helped. And that's part of it as well. I think that your identity matters, and people are certainly watching you and watching what you're doing. And if they can see that your actions are mapping your words, then there's a lot of credibility that's created. Like my parents were saying, I still live at home, which is part of, how I save for the deposit, with, earning average money. That was a very conscious decision, still live at home to help me get that deposit money. They were seeing every weekend I was going out and looking at properties, looking at 2-3 properties a day, pretty much both Saturday and Sunday, they would see that I was really doing it. And I think that made them realize, okay, Damon's really about this. And then watched off on my Oma, who was happy to finance my side of things. And it was cool because she did say at one lunch, she said, if you need a bit of help, I'm happy to help out. And I was thinking, she might want to give me $5,000 or $10,000 for a deposit. And then it just comes out that she wants to finance my side of things. And the deal was that it's going to be the exact same as what my auntie gets with the bank. So it's going to be structured the exact same way. So it's all even Stevens, and I'm not getting any sort of handouts. It's exactly the same. And it really would have only been another 4 or 5 months before I was able to do it myself anyway with a full-time income. That was the real main issue
the goal,
there. So it does give me a big leg up and allows me to get in earlier, but I don't think it was the be all and end all. It still would have happened anyway, I like to think.
Yeah. I didn't want to interrupt there, but I kind of just want to stop you and say, like, for a person of your age to be even able to save 30K and, know that this is what you want to do with your life and, embrace the knowledge and education to understand what a good property is, to understand what under market value means, like all the terms that you're throwing out at your age, some people at 40 and 50 don't even understand. So first and foremost, like there's no reason to swallow your pride whatsoever because, what you've achieved so far is absolutely incredible. And, I was 23 when I first bought my first property and, I only had 30K. I was just lucky enough to have a full-time job, which you will have in a couple of months anyway. So, there's nothing to, this market and the cycles that we're in now and the price points that we're in now, people are going to have to start. This is going to be the new normal. Like people are going to need other guarantors and other people helping them out to get started and get their foot in the door so that they can get themselves ahead. So by all means necessary, like there's nothing that you need to be ashamed about or you swallow your pride or anything like that. Like it's honestly, it's just a different method that you've used to get yourself started. And, there's not like, I honestly, I'm hands down so impressed with everything that you've achieved. So don't ever feel like you're one step behind or you're going to lose credit or anything like that, because it's definitely, and this is the whole point why I wanted to get you on as well. I mean, I didn't know to that extent. I knew that you did something with your aunt, but I didn't know to that extent that your parents were helping you out. But this is my biggest drive for doing the podcast and the YouTube is to help people like you and even younger to just, start thinking about ways of getting themselves ahead financially. And I love the fact that other people in your age or younger can now go, oh, well, if he can do it that way, then I may be able to do it too and get myself in the door. So although it might seem a bit an odd scenario now, like I still think that it's so helpful to many other people and you're kind of leading the way, really. You're not a step behind.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Appreciate you saying that. Yeah, and if there's one thing I could encourage people to do is to leverage other people, and you don't have to go it alone. Start talking about what you're interested in as well. Like if I remember my auntie and we planned to buy an investment property and we're having lunch with everyone, and for some reason I was so nervous to tell everyone that we wanted to buy an investment property, but immediately as soon as you tell others what your plans are, they can start to help you. And as soon as we said that, my dad was like, oh, Cam, one of his good mates, is a director at a bank. He'll probably know a really good mortgage broker. And then it just gets the wheels in motion. And we've used that mortgage broker. He's been awesome, and not just helping us get finance on my auntie side of things, but sharing so many different contacts and helping us understand different terms and parts of the contract. And it just snowballs. And start talking about what you want to do. And even if I didn't start a YouTube channel, I wouldn't have started talking to Sean. And if I didn't start talking to Sean, then he wouldn't have given me that advice on how to talk to the agent. And if he didn't give me that advice, then we probably would have got the deal over the line. Everything affects everything else. So start talking about what you want to do and start learning as much as you can and sharing that with others. It's a powerful thing.
It's all about that mindset, eh? Like if you just got the mindset and say, yeah, I got a goal to buy a property, it doesn't, like, you will let nothing get in your way before you can do it. And it might not, it's not going to happen overnight, but if you, as you say, talk to a mortgage broker, talk to a buyer's agent, talk to a real estate agent, these little things are not going to achieve the end result, but together they will. So it's all just
Yeah.
about that mindset and saying, this is my goal. How do I need to get there? And you'll find a
Mm.
way. Like if it's all you want to dedicate yourself to, then you'll definitely find a way, as you have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I really started learning about property at the start of the year, and it was very clear to me that's what I needed to do.
Mm.
I dabbled in the stock market, and I was already interested in investing, but at the start of this year, it became clear that property was the vehicle for me, and I learned as much as I could. And then in February, I did a course, and just after that, I just thought, okay, property by the end of this year, that's what I've got to do. Just, anything else could happen in my life, but if I buy an investment property by the end of this year, then I'm going to be happy with myself. And I've just thought about it every day. And yeah, December 6th, that's when we got our offer accepted. So it's funny how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It out of thin air, you put a deadline on something, you put a deadline on a goal by the end of the year, and it's so funny how you can achieve it. It's just, it's insane. So what in particular made you want to invest in property that was made it your vehicle? Like, was there something specific that you learned?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. There's a few different things that pointed me towards property, and in my early years, I think you could probably see it from my Oma's husband. My opa, he and her, my oma, used to basically flip motels, which when I think about it, I was obviously too young to appreciate it when I was younger, but they used to buy motels in rural towns. And they did that. I'm not sure on the details because it all sort of blurs into one for me, but they did have a few in rural Western Australia. They'd buy a motel, they'd rent out the rooms, obviously, do it up over the period of 5 to 10 years, and then sell it, and then move on to the next one. And that's how they built their wealth to get to the position where they can happily give me $105,000. And my opa passed away early in the year, and pretty much the last conversation we had before he deteriorated was about real estate. And he shared how when he was younger, probably early 30s, late 20s, he got a loan to build a set of 8 units in Melbourne, and he said how it was just a pain with the loan and all these different things were coming up. And he said, I kept persisting. I kept pushing through it. I knew what I wanted. And then something went wrong. I had to get an extension on the loan, or I had to get another 20 grand. But I said, hey, if this comes through, then it's going to really work for the bank and me. And the way he described it was just so beautiful. And he said, as soon as I had all those 8 units rented, I was in business. And then I just thought, that's how he started his journey to wealth, to get to a position where they really did support me and my brothers through our schooling and some other things. And that's what I want to do for my kids and my grandkids. I want to be that person who not just supports them obviously financially, but also supports them in other ways. And when I look back on my opa's life, I can see that he did have a big impact on me wanting to be that person. And that's just such a big part of my why, to really share that knowledge and share my wealth with others and have an impact on others. But another big part of that, it was just starting reading my first book, and then I went on to the next book, and then I started the YouTube channel, and things snowballed from there. Like I was at a investing seminar. It was September 2018, and I realized how quick everything's happened, because that was the first live event I went to about investing. And that was about the stock market, but I did that course, and at the end of this guy's spiel, he said, who wants to be a part of this program, whatever. And he held up this book, and it was a Robert Kiyosaki book, Retire Young, Retire Rich. And I ran up to the front of the room. I was hyped up, ran to the front of the room, grabbed the book, and which had this like contract or certificate in it to do the course or whatever, this additional course he was promoting. And those things cop a lot of stick, because they're priced pretty heavily, and they are. But I think those things are sometimes invaluable, because although I don't end up investing in the stock market, I still it was part of the process. And that book that the contract was in got me into real estate, and now I've got my first deal, and it all affects each other in that unique way. So it's very interesting, because I read that book and I thought, okay, like Robert Kiyosaki was able to develop wealth through investing in real estate. Oh, that's how he was able to retire. Cool. And investing in assets. And then that made me, then after that I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then I did a course on property, and it all affects each other. So that's how it sort of started.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you had both a family input and an external source input as well. Like I think a lot of people, I mean, I was definitely in that category. Like my dad was a real estate agent, and I read a lot of Steve McKnight books when I was younger, and I think that's what triggered me. But I love that you've got your OPA and these courses, or Robert Kiyosaki's books, that really ignited the fire for it. And I think honestly, that's what happened with me too. Like, is once you start and you realize what passive income is and capital growth and how properties increase in value over time, and you get your money to work for you instead of you working for your money, it triggers this thing, and it's just like you just want to learn as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, it's so powerful. It's such a snowball. As the more you learn, the more you want to learn more, and it just keeps going. And that's why I couldn't sleep for a few weeks after reading that first book, The Barefoot Investor, because I thought, this is what I need to dedicate a significant amount of my time and energy towards, is understanding how to develop financial freedom, not only so I can live a certain lifestyle and help others, but also so I can teach it to others and get other people to understand this. And it was a huge light bulb moment when I read that first book. I just thought, not enough people are talking about this. Not enough people know about this. This is what I need to dedicate myself towards.
Yeah, 100%. And I think people like you and I doing the YouTube channel as young as, well, especially you're definitely younger than I am, but I just want everyone to know that it is doable. You know what I mean? Like it's not this impossible thing. These property investors aren't, these fat cats sitting on 300K a year that are only able to do it because they've got such a large salary package. Like you can actually achieve everything that you can do, and you've shown that through finding these different methods of being able to get into the market. And I just love that, and getting you on. And I mean, you've talked a little bit about your goals there, about helping your grandkids in the future, having passive income, building wealth over time. But I mean, have you got like an end goal for investing in property, or what sort of end strategy do you want to have there?
Yeah. So yeah, I'll touch on that, but I just wanted to go back to what you said about getting into the property investing. There's so many different ways to get in. You don't have to. I mean, I did it very conventionally, but we often start like that because we think it's like what you should do. But there's so many different ways to get into it. Like you don't have to necessarily buy an investment property. You can buy your own home, try and buy it under market value, then create some equity there, and then rent out some rooms. All of a sudden, you're making income off your home. You're establishing equity, and then you can leverage into the next one, or you can do a partnership. You can learn as much as you can about investing, and then approach someone has money and no time, and then you can go out and make things happen. You can do Airbnb. You can do lease option agreements. There's so many different strategies you can do. That's quite overwhelming, really. You don't just have to do the traditional 80-20 loan investment property. There's so many different ways to structure things that if you are creative and have a mindset where you focus on solving problems and thinking win-win, then you can really make things happen. And I think that's how I've been able to do it, more so than the other things that have obviously helped me. But I think it's that having that attitude of win-win and trying to make things happen, and that have really enabled me to get in. Even if it's been in quite a conventional way, I think I could have done, if this didn't work out, then I know I would be doing something else, and I would have tried to make other things happen. Like I remember when I was at my girlfriend's house, her parents were saying how the next door neighbor was complaining about some of the leaves going into his gutter, and my girlfriend's mum complained how he's never there. He's only there like a few weeks of the year. And I thought, I've got to try and solve this problem. And I emailed him because he wrote a letter. I emailed him and said, hey, I'm willing to manage your property for you, and see if I can, maybe get a tenant in there, and then we can organize something. And I just thought, I need to try and do something. And I just kept trying to take action. And that's what enabled me to get in, even if it's with the help of my auntie and my Oma. It's just thinking win-win and focusing on solving problems. And no matter how you structure things, if you have that attitude, I think you can make it happen. But yeah, just on my goals, I want to be financially free before 30. I don't want to have to work a 9 to 5. I want to free up those 40 plus hours in my week to then really double down on the teaching side of things. And, you know, if that's trying to grow the YouTube channel even more, or doing live events, or, you know, doing a podcast, then yeah, I'm not sure exactly on the details of that, but I do know with certainty that I want to transition from working full-time and investing on the side to investing full-time and teaching on the side.
Yeah.
Or, you know, even full-time teaching, because I've just graduated a teaching degree. I love teaching, but I can't see myself being an English teacher for the next 40 years. I know that there's another thing that I want to teach much more than English, although I know that's important too. I definitely think that there's a huge gap in the market of financial education, particularly underpriced financial education, because I've experienced the overpriced financial education. There needs to be more underpriced financial education, and with podcasts today, and there's so much available that's free and easy to access. And I'd love to do live events as well that are you know, less pricey than some of the ones that are around today, and one-on-one training or group training that's at a really reasonable price, that allows people to develop their confidence in a way that isn't having a huge dent on their finances, which is what it's all about, really. So that's what I want to do. I want to transition into really teaching this stuff, and I'm already doing that, which is good. But then once I sort of get to that financial freedom level, I'll free up those hours where I can really double down on it.
Yeah, I think you're definitely well on your way, like getting into the property now, doing all the research and having all the education that you've got already. Like, you're definitely getting there. And yeah, I think, you know, on the topic of free education, you're so spot on. Like, there's so much free resources out there. Even you can literally Google anything, or find something on YouTube, or listen to a podcast on, you know, if you just listen to the best podcast on a specific topic, you will learn so much information. Might not be all of the information, but you'll definitely learn so much. And I think, you know, that's sort of the new day and age. Like, our generation is, you know, going for a walk, going to a gym, put the podcast on, and really learn and learn that way for free. And I think, you know, there's still value in the costed events. Like, as you were saying before, you know, people speak negatively about these really high cost events that you go to, but if it wasn't for that event, it wouldn't have triggered that spark for you to then be who you are today. So, you know, there's still value in getting excited about something and being hyped about something. And if it costs a bit of money, it does. But if you, you know, in 60 years time, if you look back on your life and go, okay, that event cost me, you know, $400, but it sparked this investment journey for the rest of my life that's made me millions. Like, you know, there's nothing that replaces it.
Yeah, that's what Al Kiyosaki talked about I'm not sure if it was Retire Young, Retire Rich, or Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or Cash Flow Quadrant, or whatever. But he said it cost him $500 to go to that first seminar about real estate. I think he only went to one, but that seminar alone has made him millions and millions in, you know, training the way he thinks and the skills he developed, and just being that, I guess, stepping stone to the next thing. That $500 price tag really is, you know, worth its weight in gold. And you know, I did get a little bit of stick from my parents for doing these courses, and I understand that, because they were priced very heavily, but I knew that it was in my best interest to do it, and it felt right. And there's a saying that I love, which is, those who pay attention. And just by the fact that it was a hefty price tag, it suggests that you need to take it very seriously. And, you know, there's so many great resources out there that are free, but I do wonder, and I am concerned that so many people take them for granted because they are free. You know, oh, it's just another YouTube video, it's just another podcast. But imagine if you had to pay $500 to get access to that podcast, you'd listen to it over and over and over again. So it's interesting. It's that free information, I think, actually, interestingly enough, comes at a cost, because we often underappreciate it. Yeah. Because, I mean, I listen to Bigger Pockets podcast so much, but I mean, I would pay good money to listen to that, because there's, you know, listening to some of those episodes have changed my life. Like, and interestingly enough, it's not the investing ones that have helped me. It's more the ones where they get authors on, because I'm a big reader. I love reading books, and so many times, and a few episodes they've got authors on and to talk about their books, and then I've read that book, and then it's changed my life in some way. You know, that, and yeah, they've got Cal Newport on, who wrote Digital Minimalism. I listened to that podcast heaps, read 3 of his books, stopped using my phone so much, and that helped me in my productivity. I listened to the episode with Chris McChesney, an author of 4 Disciplines of Execution, taught me how to execute better. That's helped me be more effective, more productive. Recently read or listened to the interview with Hal Elrod, author of The Miracle Morning, and then I read that book, and now I'm getting up at 4:30 a.m., spending the first hour of my day focusing on myself, and that's something that a year ago would have just seemed completely absurd to me, doing that. And just I was already trying to get up early and be more intentional with my time in my morning, but just by getting up at that time and working on yourself for an hour, doing the things that he tells you to do, it makes you feel $1 million throughout the day. And now I'm looking at the clock, it's 10:24 in Perth. It feels like I've been up for 8 hours doing stuff. It's awesome. And I wouldn't have done that without listening to those podcasts and then reading those books and then implementing. And yeah, I really want people to, I guess, understand that just because there's a lot of free information doesn't mean that you should treat it like it's free. You should be really grateful for the information that's out there. And that's what I often write in my journal. And at the end of the day, I write what I'm grateful for. And I often write about just how amazing these resources are. And I'm blown away by the fact that I can read a book that will give me this new idea, or listen to a YouTube video, or listen to a podcast, or even talk to you. You're still in the same country as me, but you might as well be on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And you can tell me something that, like about the credit cards earlier, or we can have a conversation in real time that'll help me go to the next level. Like I wouldn't even know who you are without YouTube, and or know who Sean Craik is. But it's enabled me to improve myself in a way that just wouldn't be available to people 15 years ago. So education is not an excuse anymore. There's so much available, and that's enabled me to develop my confidence to where I can confidently put in an offer on a property and know that it's at a very good price, and know where we can go up to if we need to exceed that offer. I know how to analyze deals. I know how to talk to agents to a degree. I know how to buy below market value. I know what a refinance means and how that works, and what the BRRRR method is, what house hacking is, all because I've invested a lot of time and money in education, and that's something that is invaluable. And it just allows you to have a lot of confidence, I think. So I don't think real estate is something you can just dabble in. I mean, you can, but I mean, having that approach will damage you. Like one of my mentors said, the best thing about real estate investing is that you can do it in your spare time. He also said the worst thing about real estate investing is that you can do it in your spare time. You've got to treat it as a business, really, if you want to get those business returns. And if you treat it like a hobby, then you're going to get those hobby returns. So you got to approach it the right way, and that starts with investing a lot of time in education, but also not just learning, but also taking action. And when I started to take action on what I was doing, that's when I knew I was like, yeah, this is for me, because it felt so right that I was implementing what I was learning. And the few months before I started to look at properties, I had a lot of frustration when I was making YouTube videos because I wasn't really taking action on what I was learning. I wasn't implementing. So when I started to do that, I was like, yeah, this is where the big payoff is coming from all these courses I've done, and all the time I've invested in reading books and listening to podcasts and whatnot.
Yeah. I think being financially invested in anything really puts your mind to it. Like as you said before, like you don't want to waste your money. So if you're financially invested into your education, you just soak up as much as you possibly can. And I think, the counter to free education is there's so many people out there who are not doing the right thing in the space. Like their education might seem free, but at the end of their course, then there's something else that they have to sell to you. And if it's a book, that's okay. But if it's a property that they're making commission on, it's not okay. And so I think, it's kind of a hit and miss, or, once bitten, twice shy sort of thing with some people, where they've invested a lot of money into a course. They've been all hyped up. They've talked about this area, and Victoria that's going to increase in value by 10% in the next 10 years, and then, or in the next year, sorry. And then they're sold a property off the plan from a property spruiker who is just running away with their a commission from the money that they get from the sale. So, it's the best thing to ask yourself when you're getting free education is, what is the other person getting out of this? If it's a podcast and a video and there's no sign up or no buy this or no go onto my website and trade some gold on my website or buy some Bitcoin, then it's pretty safe. Take information as it is. Like, it's everything people say is just people's opinions on things. So they may have walked the path before you, and they may know so much more that you wouldn't know if you hadn't have done it already. But there's so many things that people don't know as well. So it's just take it for a grain of salt, and don't get caught up in if someone's trying to sell you something, don't get caught. I think that's where people get caught up in this free education thing is they get bitten, and they're like, oh, if I go to this course and pay some money, then I'm going to have to sign up for another course and then another course and then buy a book, and then someone else is going to sell me a book, and it's sort of this rabbit hole that you can go down to. But take everything as a grain of salt and just soak up as much as you can.
Yeah, that's really good advice there, because I often haven't considered that, but some people do consider that, but some people take it to the extreme, I think, and are just really skeptical. Like I posted, I know you do, I've seen you do this too, which I think is good. Sharing your videos in Facebook groups. I've done that before. I've shared my videos, probably a handful in the Barefoot Investor page for Perth. And I remember sharing one video once, and these two blokes commented, and they were just like, "Oh, you just want to sell us something, or like, are you rich yet, or like, whatever, or if you want to actually help people, then get a degree in finance and whatever." And I'm like, I'm giving you free information. I've spent like 5 hours making this video. I'm making nothing for it. I don't even have my Amazon links aren't even bloody working. Like, I'm making nothing of this video. It's 5 hours of my time just to get a few likes and maybe a couple of people commenting, and mainly just to help people. Like, it's not for me, it's for you. I'm doing this video for you because it could help you. And funnily enough, the video was about how there's different money beliefs between the rich and poor, and he really gave me a really good example just in the comments of just how your beliefs about money can be really destructive. And if you go into it with that scarcity mindset and just think everyone's got this ulterior motive and is going to take advantage of you, then it's harmful. I think you've got to have an open mind, but also you've got to do your due diligence, of course, and understand what the situation is and if this person really has your best interests at heart.
Yeah, totally. And I'm in the same boat. Like, I've had people on LinkedIn message me and say, "Oh, are you a property investment advisor? You should be giving property advice." And at the end of all my videos, and even at the start of the podcast, I always say, look, this is just my opinion. This is the things that I've learned. Nothing should be taken as personal advice. I don't know your personal circumstances. And all of those things are so true and accurate. And I'm just giving my opinion and my view on things and how I've managed to achieve the things that I have achieved. It's not going to work for everyone. But I think, some people get so caught up in, if you're giving the wrong advice, then, and I'm all for that. Like, if people are giving the wrong advice, then they shouldn't be. But, take everything as a grain of salt. Like, I'm sure I've said things that aren't 100% accurate as well. And, you gotta, if you do that continual research and that continual understanding and learning, you'll figure it out. What are the commonalities that educators are teaching? What are they saying? Implement them yourself. And if it works for you, then it works for you. I think that, there's so many people out there that just, I don't know if they're jealous or if they just want to have a go or if they're having a bad day. But, people like you and I, we're not out there trying to sell you something or stuff up your life or, get you to buy a stock because we're invested. And then once the price goes up, we're going to sell out. We're honestly just out there trying to give some good education to the younger generation to help themselves get ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's a YouTube video. Like, you got to consider the context here. Like, anyone can put out anything, and it is obviously just our opinion, but it's a valuable opinion, I think. And something that filled me with a lot of confidence is that all these people that I was listening to and reading books from and going to courses, they were pretty much all saying the same thing. Like, real estate investing is very simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. And a lot of people were saying the same thing, and that gave me a lot of confidence. And yeah, I was in a position where I could confidently say, yeah, like, this is right. I understand this. I can take action on that now. But yeah, some people just are really concerned about that, and they think that there is that ulterior motive when really we're just trying to help, and it can really benefit you by just listening. And that's why I was really, I guess, concerned about these two blokes who commented on my video being really skeptical and negative. And, you know, the people who say that are, unfortunately, it's tough because they're always in a bad place. You can tell that because, I mean, when was the last time you left a negative comment on someone's video?
Yeah, exactly.
Like people who are doing well in life, or, you know, accomplishing their goals, and, you know, they have more important things to worry about than leaving negative comments on people's videos. You're always just, you know, people, I like to think, you know, might sound a bit arrogant, but people like you and I, we go and leave positive comments on people's videos and lift them up, even if you don't, you know, think it's the best advice ever. You know, give constructive criticism, or even just say something that's nice. You know, they're having a go. Like, you can't cut down those people that are having a crack. And if you do, it's really going to affect you more than it's going to affect them. And if you do write those negative comments, it's more a reflection on you. So I think people just need to understand that people are out there, you know, putting 5 hours into a YouTube video that they're making nothing of, really. So just understand that and appreciate that. And like with your latest video, I can tell it's like I think 12 minutes long, so much detail, like the editing was crisp, like that's 6+ hours. Well, I think anyway, it would have taken me 6+ hours to do that. And we're not getting anything in terms of money. Yeah. You know, we're not even monetized on YouTube. Like, someone commented on my Barefoot Investor video a while ago saying that, you know, just slamming me, saying, you know, hope you get lots of AdSense money for this. This clickbait title. And I'm like, I'm not even monetized. Like, you know, there's no ulterior motive with this. It's just education.
Anyway, that's I reckon that's another podcast, mate. We could go on forever about that one. No, that's all right.
Sorry, I'm getting on a bit of a rant, you know.
I reckon we could talk all day, you and I. So, I mean, back onto property. I mean, how do you assess the investment potential of a property? Like, is there certain things that you kind of look out for when looking for a property?
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing you need to do is understand the market, like where you are specifically looking to invest. Like we always say, and I know you said this in your video, your most recent video, which is good, that, you know, you don't like referring to the Australian market because there is no such thing, really. I mean, we might as well be 18 different countries. We're so big. Like I was driving from, you know, just down south on the weekend back to Perth, and it took 4.5 hours. Felt like I might as well have been crossing 4 different countries. It took so long, and it's just a small part of Western Australia. Like, it's huge. There is no Australian market. There are only very specific markets, and that comes. So first, I think you should decide what specific market you're looking to invest in, and then you should go about learning as much as you can about that market, what the tenants want, what they're expecting, and we shifted through a few different suburbs, and then we narrowed down on Clarkson, and then we realized that it's probably best to go a 4x2 here, based on the demographics, and then we just started looking at lots of 4x2s, and funnily enough, the property we got, which was significantly undervalued, was probably one of the best. Like, it was one of the bigger properties, big corner block next to a park, near 2 main roads, and that meant that we immediately knew that it was significantly underpriced, and we went in at asking. The bank wanted near asking, which is fair enough because it's considerably under. But just by looking at a lot of properties, you get a really good understanding of where the market value is. But things that you look for, I guess, are location, of course, you know, near train stations, schools, parks, nice amenities, shops, whatever. And then I think another important thing to consider with a property is the potential. So what are the problems that you can solve? Because of course that's how you make money in any industry. You just solve problems, and the size of the problem dictates the amount of money you're going to make. So we were looking for problems that we could solve cost effectively as well. if the roof was falling down, we obviously weren't going to touch it because we didn't have the experience or the capital to try and fix that. We were looking for problems that we could solve cost effectively. So with this property, the kitchen is just a bit dated. The backyard needs a lot of cleaning up. The fence needs fixing a little bit. It's not falling over. The mailbox needs to be fixed. The trees need to be cut. Just lots of little things that we can solve pretty cost effectively. So we know that we're going to establish a lot of equity, not only when we get into the property, but also when we add value. Those are the things I usually look for.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, just in the topic of the different markets, like, these can even be street level different markets. One side of the street could have views of the city or views of an ocean, and the other side of the city doesn't. The other side of the street doesn't. And even that in itself is a little market. Like a property on the same street, but on the other side could be difference of $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. So when we talk
exactly.
about
I know if our property was on the other side of this main road in Perth called Marmion Ave, it was on the other side, it'd be 500 meters closer to the beach. If it was on the other side of that road, it would be worth $750,000 easy, I think, because it's just 500 meters closer to the beach. So it is a whole new market. It's still very underpriced, and that's what our building and pest guy said. He said it's interesting if it was it really would be 150 meters and then it'd be on the other side of the road and it'd be worth 650, 700 instead of what we paid for at 259, where it's really worth probably 309, 300. It's very interesting. You need to be very, very hyper focused on a specific market. Otherwise you could go a little bit wrong, and you won't know what true value looks like if you're looking at every different area. So I think it's very important to focus on a specific place and know that area very well before moving on to the next place or whatever.
And markets change too. Like you might find in 10 years time that because it's so close to that beach, it's in that market now of being closer to the beach because it's not considered so far away. Like these things change over time too. So, you constantly have to be researching and understanding the area. And that's why I'm kind of a big advocate of a buyer's agent, because if you don't know an area and you think you can just do the numbers on the computer, not get your feet on the ground and buy an investment property because, the snapshot in time of the investment property looks good now. But little do you know that around the corner there's, a local gang hangout, and, there's there's crime rates that are happening over there. Like if you don't know these little things, you won't understand the full potential of what you're buying. And that's why I kind of like, I saw someone on your YouTube video when you were posting about buying the property was like buying in Perth, really. And I was kind of just like, I was going to say something to him, but then I was like, I'm not going to stir the pot. Like it's so silly. And the thing that I love, fair enough if people have got their own considerations of what they think of the Perth market, but the fact that the area so well and you understand what's going on locally there, and the fact that you just said that you understand that if you had bought on the other side of the road, it's a completely different market, means that you truly understand what you are buying. And I'm a big fan of that. Like regardless of whether you think it's the best place to invest or not, you actually know what you're investing in. You completely understand that. So I think you've done really well in that sense.
Yeah, thanks, mate. That's funny. That comment, because that was me 3 months ago, because I was initially looking to invest in New Zealand. I think the fundamentals are so good over there. It's very investor friendly. The yields are generally a bit better. So I was thinking, Perth's terrible to invest 3 months ago. But then I just thought, I just did one search one time. I hadn't even searched up properties in Perth because I just thought, like the median price is like 500 grand. I'm not getting in. But then once I started looking at more and more properties, I realized how many opportunities there were out there. So it's just a matter of, actively looking, and you will realize that there are some good opportunities. And I mean, that comment saying Perth ? I mean, what's Perth? I mean, it's a very big city. You can't overgeneralize like that. And, Clarkson is where we've chosen to, start. But there were many other suburbs that have potential as well, I think. But, the numbers probably wouldn't work in different suburbs, so you do need to understand the nuances of the market and dial in on that specific area.
Yeah, and I love that you also brought up about problem solving as well. And I think, that what you said about the way to make money in any industry, is to solve a problem. And I think you're spot on there. And um, even the smallest things, like finding the smallest reasons to do a renovation that add the most value to the property. So if you've got, if you're in an area where there's high demand for larger families who need, a couple of bedrooms in a place, and there's a place on a big block that's a 2-bedroom, doesn't have 3 or 4 bedrooms, but it's got a large living area. It might cost you $5,000 to cut that living area and add a 3rd bedroom, but you've just solved a massive problem there. You've added so much value to the property because you've now opened up the floodgates to, a whole different demographic of potential buyers. So you're actually adding value there. So I think, finding little problems in specific areas, and it might be as simple as, it just needs a new paint job, needs a fresh look, and it'll be worth so much more, or perceived to be worth so much more.
I was talking to a Perth investor recently, and he was saying, and I hadn't actually talked to a Perth investor previous, but I realized I needed to do that to understand, the Perth market a bit more and talk to someone who's doing it. And he said, Clarkson's 1.5% vacancy, you should consider converting your 4x2 into 2x1s. And I just thought, oh wow, like if that's a great example of just how talking to other people who are where you want to be is so valuable, because I hadn't even considered that, whether we'll consider doing it down the line or not. I mean, it's not in our budget now, but considering it, 1.5% vacancy in Clarkson, that's a problem in itself. Clearly people want to live there. And by converting, one property into 2, then, you also, you solve that problem. You provide another property for a reasonable rent, and you also increase your cash flow as well. So yeah, it's just about solving those problems, and it can be so win-win. People often think that it's a zero-sum game, like, oh, I'm going to spend this 20 grand, and yeah, while it will give someone another room in my house, it's not giving me much, but yeah, it can add so much value to so many different people. And that's why I love property so much. It's just win, 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 win. Like, you can provide so many different ways to add value to other people. And, like, just think of it, if you just think of a typical transaction, when you buy a property, when we bought our one, we're solving the bank's problem. We're getting it off their books. We're giving the real estate agent commission. She was stoked when we submitted our offer. We solve our problem. We need an investment property, and we're providing affordable housing. It's just so win-win-win, which is why I love property so much.
Yeah, exactly. And you're spot on. There's so many different things that you can do. But I am actually really interested in you wanting to buy in New Zealand. I think that's kind of cool. I actually, funnily enough, just flew in from New Zealand last night. My dad lives over there, and I went and visited him for the weekend. And the property market over there is very similar to the Australian market, but there's no capital gains tax, or sorry, there might be capital gains tax, but there's no stamp duty.
No, there isn't. There's no capital gains and no stamp duty.
Yeah.
Sorry. If you flip, then you got income tax, obviously. But if you have an investment property for a year plus and then sell, I don't think you have capital gains. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me. Don't sue me.
Yeah. I know. I'm in the same boat. I'm not 100% sure, but from what he's told me, because he moved back there about 3 years ago now, and he's bought 2 properties since he's been there, and I can't believe that the cost of trading property over there is so different. Like, it's actually exciting. So and I was thinking that while I was over there, I was like, oh, I could probably buy an investment property over here, but I thought maybe it might be too complicated. But I'd love to pick your brain on
I did
the research you've done there.
Yeah, I did a course over there. So that was my I went to a seminar, a property seminar, and then that was the course they were selling. You could have done one in the UK. And so I went to New Zealand, did a 3-day mentorship, and then spent a little over a week just looking at properties and going to different areas to have a look at and meet people and whatnot. And yeah, the price, well, I mean, if you go to Auckland, it's going to be hard to get in the market, but there's lots of the smaller towns that you can get in for, around 200K or 250K, but then you can rent the property out at 350, 400. So generally speaking, in some of those areas, the yields are a bit better than Australia. But to me, it's not just that that's so attractive. It's also the fact that it's a much smaller island, that the air is fresh. It's a little bit cooler. there's so many different lakes and rivers and mountains. There's not really that much room to build. So I think over the next 20, 30 years, the capital growth is going to be insane in New Zealand, because they can't really build that much more, because it's so mountainous, and there's so many different lakes and rivers and whatnot. There really isn't that much area to build, and it's just so investor friendly as well, and the yields are better. So I think end of next year, hopefully I'll try and get in over there.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I might do a bit more research into it, because I think you're spot on. Like the second one that my dad just bought, he bought a bit of a renovation, but it's on a cliff top and it's got direct ocean views. Like he just finished building the deck out the back of his house, and he's got a complete 180-degree view of the ocean in a bay, and he's literally a 2-minute walk down to a beach, and we took the jet ski out. It took about 5 minutes to unload the jet ski at the local beach. It's crazy over there. And I think you're spot on about having lakes and views and being a lot more hilly and greeny and fresh air and being cooler. I think there's a lot of potential there as well. So I'd love to pick your brain about that a bit more as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have talked a little bit about some of the resources that you've used along the way, and I think we've touched on a lot of books and a lot of different podcasts, but is there a handful that you really love and you'd really recommend to others?
Yeah, my biggest recommendation would be the Bigger Pockets podcast. I had heard about it, a couple of times, and people were talking about it. I was like, oh yeah, Bigger Pockets podcast. That seems really, I know it seemed really commercial, really mainstream, but just, and it's very Americanized. It's really, I think they only get American guests, which is a bit annoying, but I mean, yeah, just the production quality is so good, and they get some really great guests on, particularly the authors. I love those ones where they just get the authors on and talk about the concepts in their book. And the podcast is obviously very focused on real estate investing, but there's so many different other things you pick up that aren't real estate related that can help you in other areas of your life. And as I said before, I really do think that everything affects everything else. And if you just get one idea, from, for instance, one episode, Hello Rod Miracle Morning, I read the book, now I wake up at 4:30 a.m. or early 5 a.m.s, and it's helped me in other areas of my life. So yeah, I would really recommend the Big Pockets podcast. If you haven't read The Cash Flow Quadrant, Retire Young, Retire Rich, and Rich Dad Poor Dad, then you absolutely need to read those. I do think real estate investing books, I've only read a handful now, but I think there's a limit to how much you can get from a real estate investing book, because it just doesn't, because it's so hyper localized, I guess, and it just doesn't help you invest in your market. In terms of getting a good solid foundation of knowledge, they're great, but I think I've already sort of outgrown real estate investing books, because they just aren't really relevant to my situation, and there's only so much I can apply from a book, I guess. But they're great to get that foundation. Also, podcast I recommend is a Smash Avo property podcast. I heard that's really good. They got a great guest on this week, so definitely check that out.
Oh, you're a crack up. I'm not paying him, guys, just so you know.
Yeah, no commissions here. Also check out Damon Keizer's YouTube channel and Jordan De Jong's. Is that how you say your last name, Jordan?
Yeah, it's a silent J. It's De Jong.
De Jong. What ethnicity are you?
Guess. It's very similar to yours.
Oh, De Jong. What is that? I'm not going to embarrass myself and guess. No,
it's Dutch.
It's Dutch.
Yeah.
Really?
How fun is that?
Awesome. So does that mean you have an Oma and Opa?
Yeah, I do. Well, my Opa passed away recently, but I saw Oma on the weekend.
Wow, I guess it sounds like I'm speaking, mate, because I've never met someone else with an Oma and Opa, so that's cool.
That's crazy, eh? Small world.
Yeah.
And finally, what advice would you give to the next? You've given plenty of advice to the next generation already, but is there a final sign off you'd like to give?
Yeah. I think something I've experienced in just a very small way, and I don't talk to a lot of my friends about what I'm doing, because it's so different, I think. And I think I would just encourage people to not be scared of being different, and don't be scared of pursuing something that's outside the norm. Like property investing will never be urgent. You never wake up one day and go, oh, I need to invest in property. But it's funny, if you do something that's really important, like property investing, that's never going to be urgent, then it'll give you so much back, I think. And I'm already starting to realize that, even just with my first one, that it's already giving me a lot back for, not necessarily doing like a ridiculous amount of work, whereas a job's never going to do that. So I think just, thinking outside the box a little bit, focusing on those win-win situations, problem solving, getting out of your comfort zone and just doing it, and not having that analysis paralysis, just getting out there, looking at properties, talking to people, learning as much as you can, and taking action, because that's how it really starts. And until you really go out there and take action, then not much is really going to happen. You can read all the books you want, but until you implement what you're learning, then nothing really happens. And that's what I struggled with for a while. I was just in a learning phase for 8 months. And then until I started doing it, I couldn't really apply anything. But when I started doing it, things really came alive and things started to happen, which was awesome.
Yeah, well, it takes a while to take that first step. And if you can educate yourself before you do it, you're even better off. But there's nothing like learning while you're doing it as well. You know what I mean? It's okay to make mistakes sometimes, because you learn so much from it, and you take it with you for the rest of your life. So I think that's great advice that you've given, is just get your foot in the door, get started, and, achieve your goals.
Exactly. Go after it, make it happen.
All right, mate. Well, it's been an incredible conversation. I've really enjoyed having you on, and I love everything that you're doing, and especially at the age you are, getting yourself ahead, finding different ways and alternatives to get into the property market, and then, just this continual education yourself, and then helping others and educating them as well. So I think you're on a great path, and it was really great talking to you.
Thanks, Jordan. Really appreciate being on. And I just want to say, I'm really grateful for what you're doing with the podcast and with your YouTube channel as well, and inspiring the next generation. I think it's a very important mission to have, because otherwise it's not going to get done. People aren't going to learn this at school. They're not going to learn at university. So we need to be creative and make sure that people understand that property investing is a way to not only reach the financial freedom that you want, but also just to have, that extra plus one thing that gets you up in the morning, gets you excited.
What an inspiring conversation. Damon, at the ripe age of 22, fully demonstrates that you can achieve anything you put your mind to, stepping out of the normal and finding alternatives to get into a property market that most others his age would deem impossible to get into. I'm always looking for more guests to come onto the show. If you're under 30 and have one or more investment properties, whether it's good, bad or ugly, I would love to talk to you about it. The main focus is to help other soon-to-be young investors with tips and tricks along the journey. Learn from the mistakes that we have made, and ignite the fire to set themselves up financially for the rest of their lives. If you're interested in sharing your story, you can go to jordandeong.com/podcasts, where there's a podcast inquiry button at the top that will guide you through the next steps. If you're keen for more content like this, make sure you subscribe, and please leave us a review with any feedback for future podcasts. And until next time, happy house hunting.